Yo, this is Lefty. So, we got a huge fight tonight. It is going to be on ESPN. And if it were on pay-per-view, it would be the typical top-ranked card. Great main event. Crap undercards. A crap undercard fight. And, but let's talk about the main event. There's also 3 other fights on HBO. I'm not worried about those at all. I don't even know why HBO would try to schedule something for today. But anyway, that's on them. So we got rigondeaux versus Lomachenko today. I want to say that both fighters have combined for a record of 856 amateur fights or 856 amateur victories and 13 defeats. Lomachenko, of course, being 396-1. Rigondeaux about 450-12. So, I mean, the stats are crazy. Of course, everyone knows that they've got 4 gold medals between them. One interesting thing is that Rigondeaux was Lomachenko before Lomachenko. It was not that long ago when Rigondeaux was 8 or 10 fights in, winning a championship, just looking like just not looking at all like the typical 10 fight fighter, and just dominating whoever he was in the ring with, including an Anito Donaire, who was at the top of his weight division, although he was starting to slip, and I don't think Donaire was at his best when Rigondeaux fought him. However, Rigondeaux turned down the fight twice with Lomachenko. Now they're fighting at 130. Lomachenko has agreed to a rehydration clause. So either way, we're getting a fight. Boxing politics be damned. But now for analysis for the fight. I expect Rigondeaux to throw 30 punches around like he usually does. He's going to look exclusively to counterpunch. One thing that can be exploited from Rigondeaux's game is the fact that he relies on his feet so much for his defense. What I mean by that is sometimes his hands are low, and I expect Lomachenko to be able to exploit that, because Rigondeaux has had better feet than anybody he's ever fought. And Lomachenko, I think, has better feet than Rigondeaux does. Better lateral movement, faster feet. So his feet are going to be able to get him into positions to land shots when Rigondeaux is normally accustomed to having the advantage there. Rigondeaux is going to think he's safe in certain distances with his feet always being the best, when I don't think he's going to be safe in those places. Which also exposes the second aspect, the fact that sometimes he fights with his hands down and he goes straight back at times. And maybe that's because, sometimes he fights somebody, or sometimes he fights people that aren't in his talent class, so to speak, skill-wise. So he gets away with doing those things, but I think that if you do it enough times, there's muscle memory there. So I look for Lomachenko to exploit those things. Also, he's going to throw 30 punches around, Rigondeaux is, and I don't think that's going to be enough to win the fight. Lomachenko, basically the only thing he doesn't do well is throw with power. Except, he's got decent power, but it's not elite power. So, the things I expect Lomachenko to do are to feint, get Rigondeaux to commit to a counter, and then counter off of Rigondeaux's counter. That's what I expect him to do. I expect him to force Rigondeaux backward And I think he's going to get clipped by some counter shots, but it's Rigondeaux. And Rigondeaux is throwing from, a 118 to 122 type power. Even if it's elite power for those divisions, I think Lomachenko's taking the bigger shots. Probably from Orlando Salido. So I think he's going to be able to take those shots. I do think that Lomachenko is going to pressure him, and I don't think he's going to throw his customary 70 punches around. I think he's going to have to be defensively responsible and throw about 50-ish. But Lomachenko's pretty accurate, so I would expect him to land enough shots to get the decision. The way that I see this fight going is the first 6 rounds, it's going to be close, competitive. They might even split 3-3. But usually Lomachenko takes the first 5 or 6 rounds and figures you out, and then he dominates after that. Now, I'm not sure if he's going to dominate Rigondeaux, but I do think that he's going to have the advantage in the later rounds. And one big advantage that Lomachenko has is that he's got Rigondeaux's defense. He's got elite defense, but he's also got elite offense to go with it. So if the fight isn't going his way the first few rounds or the first half of the fight, Lomachenko could always switch game plans. That's something that Rigondeaux, I don't think, can do. You're never going to see Rigondeaux throw 50 or 60 punches around or switch tactics or, basically what I'm saying is that if Rigondeaux's counter shots and counter punch game isn't on point, I don't see him taking risks and switching mid-fight. I can see Lomachenko fighting defensive and getting more offensive, or I could see him fighting more offensive and fighting defensive later. I could see him switching his game. And with that comes more options. And I think those options give him the biggest advantage. And also, I think that he's the perfect style to beat Rigondeaux simply because he has elite offense and elite defense. And, if he wanted to be Rigondeaux and throw 25 punches around, he could do that. I think he can do that. But he knows that that's not going to get him many big fights. That's not going to make people want to see him. And that's what Rigondeaux never got. Rigondeaux never got the fact that, hey, if I throw more shots, people are going to want to see me fight. So I expect the fight to go down 8-4. Lomachenko, definitely a decision. But I expect Rigondeaux to, give a good account of himself. But after the first 6 rounds, I'm looking for Lomachenko to take the fight. And so we'll see. We'll see. All right, so that's my breakdown. Watch out for Rigondeaux's hands down, backing straight up. Watch for traps set by Lomachenko to get Rigondeaux out of his shell. And watch the counter uppercut from Rigondeaux. All right, so this is Lefty. I plan on releasing more videos in the future. I took a bit of a hiatus, but I'm back. So gonna finish out this year strong. Gonna go into next year. Hopefully next year's as good as this one. Peace.